Welcome back to the channel, guys. As you might be able to tell, we're in Legit Street Quarters, and joined by us is Alex. Alex, welcome.
Hey, what's going on?
So for those that might not know what you do, can you give us a summary of maybe what you do currently?
Yeah, I make YouTube videos on mostly broken cars, abandoned, interesting, old, but always broken. And I make video series on essentially fixing them and then sometimes modifying them.
All right.
Most of the time.
Yeah. So quick question, let's just jump right into it. When did this all start?
It started, man, it's been like 8 years now. So it's so crazy. Like it's been so long. I used to be on car forums, like before the world of like Facebook groups and all that, it was all car forums. And I got a lot of help on those forums. I posted a lot on those forums myself. And I wanted to do a CTSV Brembo brake caliper swap on my 2001 Trans Am, which is somewhere over there.
Okay.
And so I'm like, you know what? Instead of typing this out and putting up pictures for everybody, let me make a quick video. And I made that video, and I'm like, where am I gonna put this video? And I'm like, there's a thing called YouTube. I didn't even have a YouTube account. I wasn't into YouTube at all.
Wow.
And that wasn't even that long ago. Like YouTube was in full force. I'm just old. So I'm like, all right, let me make this account so I can host the video somewhere. And then it just kind of kicked off from there. I started making, people really enjoyed it. They're like, thank you so much for all this information. Now I can do this really easily. And I put all the parts listed in the description box for everybody. And then I started making videos on Mercedes. And that's really what kind of kicked it off because I was a master tech for about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to come out with videos from like kind of a place of authority. Like, hey, I actually know how to fix this car. So here's really solid information. And I think people appreciated that. And yeah, just from there, I just realized people liked it and I kept on making videos.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's rewind and see where this all sparked from as far as interest in cars. Where did this all start?
I think I was just born with it, I guess. Like I just always liked cars.
Was there like
even as like a little kid?
Like a spark, like a moment where you knew? Like maybe back to like maybe even Hot Wheels or something?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, my mom would always tell me all I wanted was cars for like my birthday, like little cars, model cars. And then I'd be sitting out my window all the time watching cars go by. I remember as a little kid, I was always obsessed with the number of tailpipes that a car had. I always equated that with like, if it was fast or not,
Yeah.
And I would just always be sticking my head out the window, just listening to cars. And then even as a kid, I could tell what kind of car it was by the way it sounded or how it started specifically.
Wow.
But I didn't know much about brands. I just knew like, that sounds like it's the one with the blue oval. You're like, I don't even know what that is, but it sounds like, so yeah, just as a little kid, I was just obsessed with cars, and then throughout high school and everything. And I just never stopped.
Wow. Yeah. That's it's almost like a complete opposite with me and my siblings. Like my brother and I, we would actually, whenever we were doing road trips to say like, Wisconsin Dells or something like that, my brother and I would identify make and model, and the first one to name it got a point or something like that.
Nice.
It's just certain stuff like that, or, if you got it wrong and then the point goes to the other person, kind of thing. So, that kind of reminisces like when you're saying like, oh, I know the sound of things, like I can relate to that in some capacity.
Yeah.
So it's really nice and to hear that. One of the interesting questions that I usually ask people is, what is your first car? It's a two-parter. What is your first car? Or what was your first car? The second part is, what was your first modification of said car? Or maybe it was a different car that you modified.
So my first car was a 1988 Trans Am GTA. It was gray with T-tops.
That's a good first
350. Car. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I actually bought it when I was 15, so before I even had my license. But I got a job at Burger King when I was 15. That was my first job, and with the sole intention of saving up money to buy. Actually, I really wanted a Fox body Mustang. That's what I wanted. And I went and looked at like 3. And, back then we're talking like $2,500 cars.
Yeah.
That's all I could save up after like 6 months of Burger King.
Yeah.
And they kept on falling through. And then I went to go out. I went and I drove like 2.5 hours with my mom to look at this red 1986 Fox body with T-tops 5-speed. And I got there and the guy's like, I sold it. And I'm like, oh. I drove like 2.5 hours with my mom. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, I do have this gray 1988 Trans Am GTA also that I'm selling. I'm like, I never really thought of that, So I looked at it and I'm like, this is really cool. I mean, keep in mind, I'm 15, so I don't know much about anything with cars, you know, at that point. So yeah, it was a pile. It was not a good car. It ended up having a ton of problems, but I bought this car. I remember it was $35.50, and I needed to borrow like $1,000 from my mom because I was only going to spend like 25.
Right.
And we negotiated to $35.50, and so my mom, I'm like, Mom, can I borrow a little bit of money? I'll pay you. But I'm working at Burger King. I'll pay you back. So she's like, all right. And I bought the car, and just like I did not modify it at all. I didn't know money at all to do it, but I remember just stuff kept breaking. A ball joint snapped completely in my high school parking lot once I finally got my license and was able to drive it. And it was a nightmare. I didn't know how to fix the car.
Oh.
You know, so I was just trying to figure it out. Yeah, it was like, well, I don't have any money. I don't know how to fix it. So it's like I either try and fix it or I don't get to drive my car, you know? And yeah, so that kind of tumbleweeded into starting like to have an interest in fixing cars, is like out of necessity. But the first car I modified was my second car. So I sold that one, and I got a different job at this point. I was a really annoying telemarketer. I was one of those guys, but it paid really good, and I was in high school.
Yeah.
And I really wanted another. I ended up getting a Firebird Formula, a 1989 Formula 350. And at that point, I decided I wanted to be a mechanic, and I was going to go to tech school. So I was 16, and I was like, I still had a couple of years left of high school. But I'm like, how am I going to go to tech school? I don't know anything. So I'm like, well, what if I take this perfectly good engine apart and see if I can put it back together? And without any knowledge of even how an engine worked, I had no idea.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, scary project to undertake.
Yeah, I figured I'd just hop in. So that's what I did. I ripped it apart, and while I was in there, I did like a camshaft and headers, and I messed some stuff up, and I ended up blowing that engine up. Oh no. And then I had to rebuild it. So I learned a ton from that car, and I worked a lot. I quit all sports in high school that I was doing just so I could work, so I could fix my Firebird and learn how to fix cars.
It's like a learning the hard way.
Oh my God, yes. I remember when I had the engine out, and I mean, you remember high school, you have no money.
Yeah.
And I had a neighbor let me borrow an engine hoist, a cherry picker, and I had to take the engine out because it was rod knot, it was making a noise. And I remember when I got the engine out on the chains and I was moving it, I was like underneath the engine, kind of like I was holding it for dear life. And my friend is like, dude, if that engine falls, what are you gonna do about it?
Right.
I'm like, I don't know, but I need this engine to be okay. So I don't care. I will hold this engine. So yeah,
Wow.
I have to run eventually.
Wow. Okay, well, let's fast forward a little bit here and ask you the big question. I don't want to, we don't want to give anybody any spoilers of where everything is headed, but where do you envision the future of LegitStreetCars, and where are we going? What's your main goal?
Yeah, so this is gonna be kind of a opposite of what most people think, because everybody thinks of like growth and continuing to always get more and more and more. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, I do continue to buy more and more cars, but I would like my level of what I'm doing to stay the same. I don't necessarily think about hiring a team of 10 guys to put out the craziest projects the internet's ever seen. I just simply want to continue to do exactly what I want to do, which happens to be buy older cars that are usually affordable and that are broken and fix them. Like, that's what I really like to do. So I know there's a lot of other channels out there, and they're under the gun because they've maybe bought really crazy exotics and now they have to one-up themselves every single time.
Yeah.
I mean, I bought a Nissan GTR, and then 2 weeks later I bought a $6,000 Ford Taurus. Like, I love the balance of what I've done on the channel, and I'd like to just continue doing what I'm doing now. Forever.
Yeah, no, and
I just love it. Like, I don't want to change anything.
and I think that's a great answer, because like in some respect, like if you continue doing what you're doing, you're only going to be in a way helping other people that also own that same vehicle or something, and they're looking something up on YouTube and they're like, well, he's doing this with that car and I own that car and I'm looking for help with that. So in more ways than not, it's helpful to your viewer.
Yeah, 100%.
Not, change that capacity of how you're doing things.
Yeah.
And you don't get the, same quality of content that you get as people do like to see how you go about it.
Right. I don't want to like force anything.
Right.
Like a lot of guys will go buy a bunch of exotics and chase view numbers and stuff like that. And I'm a bad actor, so like I could never fake it. I truly, every car I get has some kind of special meaning, or I've thought about wanting it for a long time or something, and it's genuine. So I just want to keep going. I guess my fear sometimes is that I'll run out of ideas, but then I'm like, nah, there's about like 50 more cars I could think of off the top of my head.
Right.
That would be so cool to have and fix up, and there's so many problems with cars. So
yeah, I think that's the disease of the gearhead in general, is that, once you get something, it maybe not even a year later, you're already thinking about the next car, or the next thing you want to do, or, whatever it might be. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's no secret that you have had probably a great success in a lot of ways in your YouTube channel, and maybe even in your own business and things that are happening around you. Are there people that are important to you and around your life that you'd like to thank and take this opportunity to thank, that maybe were supportive of all the decisions that you made, whether, thick or thin or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, the first few are going to be cliche with anything, right? Family, but it's just true.
Yeah, exactly.
Like when I started the channel, we were on our second kid, and she was like 3 months old. So it was a weird time to start. And I was on the midnight shift. So like everything was crazy. And my wife was she had a full-time job. I'm on the midnights. We have 2 babies at this point under the age of 2. And that's when I decided to start.
Yeah.
And so like, in many situations, I guess a lot of people would probably have a wife that would be like, you're insane, do not do this, you can't do this. And my wife just always had that faith in me that like, whatever I started, I would try my best to do really good at it. So she's like, if you're really in on this, like you are when you say you are, then go for it. And so she was just really supportive and helpful. A lot of guys are like, how does your wife put up with all this stuff, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know, but and then my mom was with me from, like when I got these cars in high school, needed to go to the junkyard. My mom would be the one coming with me to the junkyard,
Yeah, that's,
helping me sift through old cars and covered in mud and stuff. So she helped a lot. But some other people, that have really helped, some fellow YouTubers, especially in the early days when I didn't know whether I wanted to go full-time, because I was always kind of full-time, but I had another job, so I was just working 2 jobs.
Right.
And so some people that have influenced me there would be like Freddie Hernandez, Tavares. We started chatting many years ago, and he, everybody like was a step or 5 ahead of me. So it was nice to be able to see that, hey, these guys are doing it. They quit their jobs. So like Sam Crack, Rich Rebuilds, those guys were just normal guys like me. They had normal jobs, and they were able to figure it out. So they were there was years where every week I was like, man, am I still doing this? I'm making negative money.
Yeah.
But I'm working 40 hours a week. So it's like not only am I working 40 hours a week at least on these videos and not getting paid, but it's costing me money to spend my time this way. For years, I was in the negatives. Yeah. So that's very discouraging. It's like having a failing business over and over and over and over and over and over again for years.
It's like the only positive thing about it is like, oh, it's something that I believe in. So it makes it a little better.
I had to have a ton of faith in myself, and then that it, and then my early subscribers were huge in keeping me going, because I got so much positive encouragement in my comment section that I can't thank those guys enough. I would say obviously I love all my subscribers, but everybody, like I would say before 300,000 subs were so like, it was like a cult following. They would watch the videos. I got a lot of views for not having that many subs, so I was very grateful for those early subscribers, and the comments were just amazing, that I was like, man, if this many people are saying good things, there's got to be a chance that this works. So, a lot of them. And then later on in my career, even the first 5 years of this, I edited, filmed, did all the work. I did 100% of everything. But then I met Max, and he's been my editor for, about 2.5 years now. and he's been great. It's been my dream to have a shop and an editor on hand. I didn't want anyone remote, you know. I always wanted someone to where I'm filming and then I can just go in there, zip files, give them notes. I leave them video messages all the time, like, hey man, let's move this scene over to this and let's do this and this. Or I could just walk over there and tell him, like, so, you know, that's been fantastic. Yeah, I'm sure I'm forgetting someone, but yeah, that's it really. You know, just a lot of positive encouragement just all the way around, you know. You know, a lot of people will be like, oh, people told me I couldn't do it, you know, and I don't know how many people are telling the truth when they say that, because it's so like repetitive. You hear that all the time with people. All the time. Everybody said I couldn't do it. I'm like, who's actually telling you?
Yeah, who's actually? Who?
I never.
You, right?
Right.
You're telling yourself.
Exactly. There's no one out there, you know. So I never had anyone like that. It wasn't, you know. Everybody was always positive. Maybe they were lying to me. Maybe they just wanted, you know. But it kind of worked, and the comment section was huge. So yeah.
Awesome. I'm actually going to reference my notes on camera for this because it is something that I want to close out this interview with. Something that you did say in a recent video that stuck out to me was, and I want to quote this correctly, and that's why I'm reading off my phone about it, because I don't want to misquote you, right, or mix up any words here, but you stated, if you guys have a dream, there's nothing in your way except yourself. And this was recently when you brought the R35 to AMS. Yep. So I wanted to just simply, like, this is mine, telling other people's stories. So I want to take this opportunity to thank you for giving me this opportunity to hear your story and how this all came about, where it's going, and the important people in your life that you thank for, you know, everything that is going on around you. So I just want to take this moment to really thank you, and I appreciate you. Just giving me this opportunity.
Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it too. All right, thanks, Josh.
That's a marker for
audio,
all three cameras. Yeah, how we're just talking. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
So it's just a one-on-one interview.
Cool.
I'm gonna cut this part out because I need to refer to some of the questions that I did have for you. Yeah. Cut. All right.
Cool. Yeah, that's it, man. Sweet.
It's a lot faster than I thought it was gonna be. All right.
Most of the time it's setting up, right?
Yeah.